No. Okay.
Hi. Yeah, I make woodcut prints. They're all woodcuts. This is one I'm working on right now that is just kind of out stages because I'm working on it.
Well, no, I didn't know if she did it by hand or like programmed CNC machining or you know.
Hi. Good. There's still proof in it, you know, but getting there.
How are things for you?
Busy. Good. Ayla just got into Kappa. Oh,
nice.
Yeah. So that was exciting, like to find out finally, because she was like just nerve-wracked about it. We both were, you know. She's like you apply and then you wait for like a couple months. Yeah. Like she's gonna be so on top of it. Like with the pandemic, taught all the kids to like be really organized with their schoolwork at home and stuff, or she got to be anyway. And then now, yeah, we'll see. She's gonna be. Hopefully, she's a sharp little person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, this one I'm about to move over to like some color blocks and make the color blocks, but I haven't printed it yet because I've been busy working on that one, and then you know had to stop and clean up the studio so that I can host people here. Those are examples of like blocks, and the prints are in the bin over there. Like the prints that are made from the blocks.
Right.
I kind of set out just some examples so people could see, because normally it's just me in here, you know, working. And yeah, no, I'm just explaining a little bit because that's the way it is. Hi. Welcome. It's been a while since I've had a bunch of people.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you know, and at night too, it's like different because like there's not a whole lot of lights and stuff going on. This is printing on this block here.
Oh, got it.
This print next. There's 5 blocks for that. I'm working on that. Try to give a small overview of how I do it as I kind of go around here and there.
I've seen that someone on the website.
Yeah. It's so hard to photograph. It's much better in person.
Wow.
I haven't had like. I did clean up a bit because I was in the midst of like printing this and everywhere. Like the check out here is like the wall. I mean, I have to go back to them constantly. Like much more used to like a like informal.
I think that
The more relaxed, more just like I don't know, like everything is here in the space. Talk about how I navigate it, you know. I don't really know. It's not really red, but it's kind of warm. Okay. I want it to be very nice. Sure. Yeah. That's great. just how I've been doing Tugboat now for 7 and hadn't really made it before at the beginning of Tugboat. So it's been 17 years of just like really experimenting with this medium. What you see now is like the prints that are here are probably the last like 4-ish years of working on things. You know, some prints might take me like a month. Usually it ends up taking to make an image. Sometimes I'm sitting and drawing and carving here at my table. Sometimes, and then when that's done, I'm like up printing here at the press. I have to know a lot about, you know, how ink sits on paper, how much to apply to the block. There's just constant fine tuning in like every aspect of like what I do, and I really enjoy it, and it brings a lot of energy into like what I want. How I just want to keep making them. Like every time I finish one, I'm like, oh, I could use something different. And like think about it while I'm doing the tedious stuff, and I can't wait to like move on to the next one. But it is a time-consuming process, and try to make it worth a while in the end product. But yeah, so does anyone have any?
Normally only have one new sort of piece at a time.
I mean, I have this one that, well, this is sort of new. Like the river is like essentially new. I mean, I've been working on it since July, and I post things as pre-orders. You know, sometimes when I'm working on something large, just to sort of fund the time it takes to like make it, and also give people like a little deal if they pre-order something before they see it finished. But alongside that, you know, I made that. I've made some other prints too, like smaller things. But when I have a big thing going, I can't just devote my time exclusively to that because it just takes time. So I'll pepper it in with like a few other little things. So like this, and I don't know, just keep it rolling. But the sun, like, I mean, that took me a while to kind of figure out.
Really?
It's exactly the same size as my press roller, the blocks. So it's like the maximum width that I can print. So I really should have thought that out a tiny bit more. I was drawing this block in because, like, I don't transfer my drawings to it. I draw like right on it, you know. So like when I started drawing on the block, first in pencil and then in pen. I mean, it takes a while to draw something that big, and I also try to be really precise about how I want it to look when it's carved. So when I'm drawing in pen, it looks very much like it will when it lines being precise. I use the microns. Most people probably wouldn't be able to tolerate that. And then like on color blocks, I'll use like a color underneath if I'm drawing. Like if I knew that's gonna be blue, I'll draw in blue or whatever, just to get a sense of that. But yeah, I'm just always making prints.
What appeals to you the most about like why would as opposed to like linoleum or
I like the
softer resin or
I like connect to the wood. I like things that are natural and like the physicality of the wood and the effort it takes to carve it, but also because it was alive and it has like a a grain of its own, and it's like this kind of partnership of like working with that. And I like the warmth of it. I think people really respond to wood. I respond to wood. I think it's just kind of it's a comforting thing to think about. Like we build our houses out of it. We've used it for thousands and thousands of years on this planet, and it just feels human somehow to work with it. Yes.
So if it's gonna be a color print with the block,
Mm-hmm.
you draw it out by hand, you said you press it, and then you transfer it.
Oh, well, when to create this image onto this block, again, like, so that I have, like, the next one, I have to offset print it, because I can't just print the block. So I print the wet, register that in. Like, all my blocks, are registered, like, on a corner, and, like, they, way of, like, doing register stuff. It's more, but it's kind of like I've developed a sleight of hand for it, because it was definitely a challenge to conquer when I first started with woodcut and making color woodcuts. And these even too, like where there's three different blocks that are printed all together on top of each other, that layer. But then like this one, which is like a 4-color block where the brown is made from a combination of like red and orange or with blue, and so each of the blocks kind of layers like you see in YK sort of, but like I'm printing different. Has that subtly, but like for instance, I'll show you the blocks like that. So this one has like 4 blocks. They always look a little gummy after they've been inked, but they always print very precisely. So like the first one I printed was yellow. So this was like everything that's just like the shape of the yellow. None of the black line shows up from this. And then the red printed on top onto paper, and then the red layer next. And everywhere yellow and red are 2 layers on top of those 2, and makes purples and browns and blue. And then the black line sits last. So like just planning out an image like that so that everywhere I want green to be exists on, multiple blocks. Everywhere I want red to be, purple, brown. It takes what I want on paper. It takes a minute. And then also how much you apply it. I mean, so many things can affect like the color when you're printing in layers, things on top of each other to create like the effect of CMYK. But if I printed like in a darker blue, it'd be way darker green, So it's like a managing of just like the touch of like how the roller hits the block and how much ink is there, and making sure it's smooth and even, and yeah, it's all very precise.
And then
it takes a long
time. You have to do that for every single one, right?
But like with a print like this, I'll do like all yellow one day.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
So once the blocks are made, which take a while to make, like it might take me a few months to make all the blocks, but then when I get to it all fine-tuned,
Do you go by weight then, or do you
no, it's eyeballing.
Okay.
But but like
a smidge
with the so then I'm like patch. But sometimes I can't quite do that because of like the scale of the print or the size of the edition, and I have to kind of print it in batches. Like the sun, I lost an hour and a half of my life, So I have to like really, there's nobody makes rollers that go radially, Like you have to like really, like it's like multiple rollers I'm using, the right application, and I mean, it just, But so I can only print so many of those at a time, realistically, in a day. I can't print like the whole edition at once, so that one's a little bit more fluctuation, but pretty close, The idea is there in all of them. But yeah, this is, no, go ahead. Yeah.
What led you to do like each block as its own layer as opposed to like a reduction print?
I like to fuss with the ink so much. Like I can't commit like in layers like that, like with reduction and like print like 100 or something and then like regret the color I printed later. Or, like I'm just fussy about how things end up on paper. So I want to be able, I go through the extra effort to create the blocks so that I can take the liberty to experiment like before I publish. And also because I print larger editions, which would be more challenging on a reduction block to print like 100 of something, because your block would degrade a lot probably over time.
What is reduction?
This is when you use one block to create like the entire image. So you might have a drawing that you make below, and then you carve, like, same thing, but you'd only, like, some things you can't achieve the same effect, because, like, if you carve something out somewhere, then you can't, it's gone.
You can't mix the colors.
You can't go
also.
back. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'd print, like if I was making a reduction of this, I'd print this, and then I could cut out from it, and then print another color on top, and then cut out again. So you can make any of them, which is enjoyable. I like that that they're making their way into lots of people's homes. It feels like
Worth it.
worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it, and just kind of more efficient to make more of them once I spend the time doing it too. Be like processing like how to make it, like fine tuning it all. And then if I only printed 20, it would be sort of like anticlimactic. But yeah. But so I go, like sometimes I'll be making prints in like this color strategy with like, and then I've been, like I said, I've been kind of gearing towards also like this where not necessarily, each block kind of has its own role, and they don't necessarily overlap a lot to create. Let's see. So that's a 3-block print with these 3 blocks. So there's one, this was like carving that spider web out 3 different times. So this one had like yellow into pink around. And this one like printed all the green leaves and like little dots within. And then this one just printed like all of like the line on the top. And then like with the clover one was kind of similar like that. But I've been kind of making these as like these little, like, with like the green line that's kind of like this was the key. And then this green prints with like a roll underneath. But the first block that I print is this pink one. And then this one layers with this one. And there's lots of working a lot on kind of a smaller scale, up until more recently when I started making the sun, and then now the river. And
do you ever get headaches? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, is the intensity of the work? Like, do your eyes twitch after?
I feel my eyes are going worse now. Like, but I have always had like really. I think, like for me, like. I like things getting closer and closer, that like it doesn't fall apart as you get near.
Yes, right.
But there's only so small you can go with woodcut. It doesn't. It's different. I used to make etchings and like using like copper plates and like little tiny lines, and just spent forever making little tiny stippling lines. So it feels so like bold to like make these like wooden strokes. That so there's only. You can't really go too small because the tools won't, the wood won't work like that. So I just make it this size.
Is this a special kind of wood?
I use birch plywood.
Plywood, okay.
Yeah, because I can cut it down in whatever size, and it's strong enough to hold up over time, and like the addition sizes that I do, and then same process over and over again. So it's exhausting, but it's also very satisfying to do, and because it requires a certain amount of control to be able to kind of line it up with a precision that goes throughout the whole edition. It can be kind of challenging, but I enjoy the task of doing that after I've been sitting and carving or fussing with color blocks.
Right,
It feels good to get up and like move around and roll brayers and stuff, like that. But
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was curious if you can talk more about like how you plan different layers. Like, do you use digital at all, or do you just
not
like,
really. No, I mean I try not to. I mean I use like the computer when I'm doing like photo processing for like putting pictures online.
Yeah.
And stuff. But like I want it to be made by my human hand. Like I want to have it be something that is not computerized. And so it takes longer to make it because I'm not doing that. But
so you just like imagine how it's gonna.
Well, I have a sense of like where I want it to go. Definitely, it usually veers from that. Like when I start when imagination goes into like physical world, it's like, oh, how do I get that color? Like it doesn't always like happen immediately, and that can be really frustrating and take a lot of tries, like what I'm doing right now with this river print. Like I keep trying, I'm like, it's almost to that spot where I feel like it's, but it's not quite the right mix for me yet. I do get it because I'm going to sit and publish it afterwards, and that takes time and effort, and if I get it wrong, then I'll just feel in my gut, like, for the rest of my life, I should have taken a couple more days to, like, print that one better or whatever. So I've just learned, like, over the years, like, I don't want that feeling lingering ever, so I just, like, follow it through. And sometimes it takes longer, but there's fast things in the world, too. I'm fast-ish. For woodcut. Yeah.
Do you ever find, you said that if you're not printing, you're carving or something, do you ever find yourself in a rut, and what do you do?
I'm to really think things out if something's frustrating me, or just like to not be focused on what I'm doing. I mean, I have a lot of I would love to spend all my time here, but like I said, I have a couple things happens all around. I find, like, working in a medium where it takes longer time to make, I'm always like feeling like I have so many. I want to try to capture what I find beautiful about something. I really want to be making work that feels like bright and hopeful, and like pleasant, and like I feel like we all kind of are up against like trying to figure out what it is to be alive in this world, and that's what we all struggle with in our creative endeavors. And I just tend to be kind of like an optimistic person, and I don't want to sure, I make some skulls and stuff here and there, but like I want what I'm making to feel like just like hopeful.
Can you tell us about your press?
What's that? Roll through, and it just applies very even pressure across the surface of. I use masonite on the top of my block. There's a bunch of masonite there. When I'm printing instead of felts, so it's like you get more of like the everything when you're using a felt because it pushes down in. But I a wood against the wood, and it's like only those things are touching. No wool is really only picking up the very surface of the inked block. Other questions? Do you want me to talk about any other prints?
Do you have a favorite, like I feel like you have a process, do you have like a favorite playlist that you listen to? What do you like, do you listen to something when you're working? Or like,
I listen to a lot of stuff. I listen to like podcasts and books on. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and books on tape, or not books on tape. Audiobooks. I like tapes. I listen to tapes. I want to listen to a lot of stuff, kind of all over the place. Sometimes I set like the maximum I'll print of anything at 200.
Okay.
And sometimes like with the sun, I probably will not print past 100. But if I print a run of 100 of something and people continue to ask me about printing anything, a lot of times they'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like more and more I'm just like, I don't want to be doing, I want to be making new things. So like when I have to take time to like print something else again, then probably exhibitions, but sometimes I do. And if I am in an exhibition, a lot of want to. Just like stop and see how many I can make in my lifetime.
Yeah, there you go.
What you said about the wood and working with natural materials, so I'm wondering about your inks. Like, are those also
Oil-based. I use all oil-based inks, yeah.
And the palette, like, almost like reminds me of William Morris or something. Like,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like that there, that's, most of it's just like from the can, like I want to just see the colors, like, so when I'm coming up with like how I want to mix them, I can remember like what that looks like on that kind of paper. I need to do a more extensive, because when I use like different colored papers, it changes. Like right now with the river one that I'm working on, it's like a darker tone paper, so like all my layers get that kind of yellow glow from the paper through them. So that's kind of what I've been like battling. Fluid for myself by one, like drawing direct to block, two, like when I'm carving, like I make the separate blocks and I allow myself the time to like really perfect the inks and things like that, and to get it to where I want it to be when I'm printing. Making it, that's okay. It's almost better when.
More of an art or a science when you're mixing inks, or you're going through the process of just repeatedly rolling, pressing.
It's kind of like a scientific approach, but you kind of have to have a mind for the sentiment, or I tend to have a mind for the sentiment of like the colors as they're building too. It's like like any small little variation in how much ink you apply, or like between layers can affect like how the end print turns out and what it looks like. So I try to. I feel like it's like just all these different moments of at it. I want it to have a certain like glow to it, or so I don't know. I guess I'm conscious of the way that it will be viewed when it's done, but also during things at night.